Hi, it's Kylie Koo. Welcome to my studio. So in this video you will see me participating in the challenge set up by Tiff over at the channel at SouthernGalsDesigns. And it was an Instagram challenge, but I decided that I would film what I was doing. So I'll leave a link to my Instagram account below and also to Tiff's YouTube channel and also her Instagram as well. So the challenge was to spend 5 minutes a day doing a journal page over the course of 7 days. So I've done 5-minute journaling before when I used Shannon Green's prompts to do a kind of journaling by 5 type thing, and I've got a whole playlist of those, and yeah, I'll link the playlist above and below. So for this challenge, you could use anything, but I decided to create a little journal just for it. So I think this is around A5 size. I can't quite remember what A5 is. Maybe 10 by 8, something like that, there or thereabouts, or 11 by 8. So I was just going to do a single page, not a kind of double page spread. So literally all I've got here are 2 pieces of paper that I'm sewing together just with some raffia. It was the first thing that came to mind. Not the best thing to stitch a journal with, but it's what I had to hand, so I just did it. And I decided that I was just going to do a separate little journal rather than using one of my existing journals, simply because sometimes it's nice to see a project finished. I have so many journals where there's still so many pages to do that I think I'll never get the journals finished. So for this one I thought, nope, I'm going to make a little journal, and by the end of the week it will be done. So I filmed each day, just what I was doing each day, and I'll talk you through that. So as I say, we were to spend 5 minutes a day on the page. So I've got my journal done, and because this gives me 8 pages, I'm just going to decorate the front page. Now I decided that I would take as long as it needed to decorate the front page, so I wasn't going to do this in 5 minutes. I think it took, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes maybe. I have put this on a faster speed throughout, just because I'd made the journal, because I'd shown you decorating the page, because there's 7 days worth of 5-minute pages. It was going to make it quite a long video, so I decided to speed it up. But here I am, I'm just using my little jelly plate, and I think this is a great way just to get some colour down, and just using kind of 3 colours there just to get that nice effect. And I will use the roller as well just to get the excess off the roller, and all I'm looking to do here is to build up some interest. And this, I think, is a really good way to kind of get layers right off. So giving it a dry, and yeah, this is fuchsia. Just going to use a touch of this, and I'm going to use this through this stencil. And I just thought that colour fitted in quite nicely, though as you'll see in a minute, and as I'm often prone to do, I do actually take some white paint just to knock everything back a little bit. So yeah, doing 5 minutes a day is a bit of a challenge in some ways. I think it's the type of thing that once you get into the swing of it, it becomes easier. But more recently, through my positivity deck, I've been trying to take my time when painting to enjoy every stroke, every brush stroke, etc. But sometimes it's nice to just kind of shake things up a little bit. So doing the 5-minute page was good. It was fun, and I've shared all the images each day. As I've completed each page, I've shared it on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram and we don't follow each other, then yeah, let me know and give me a follow. And I'd love to see any of your work on there as well. So just spraying a bit of water on that and just lifting a little bit of the white off again, and then giving it a good dry. So this was just a mixed media paper. I took it from a big, I can't remember if it's A1 or A2 size, really large sheet that I just halved and then halved again, and then got my 4 pages. So that needed a fair bit of drying. So now just taking this Stabilo All and just putting some marks down, giving it a spray and giving it a bit of a roller. And then I think I decided that I didn't really like that, so just taking a bit of paper towel and some water and rubbing some of that back off. It's a good thing about the Stabilo All that if you put it down and then don't like it, if you're quick enough, you can actually lift it back off. So I definitely wanted some of that dark down there, and I decided therefore just to put it around the edges, so almost making a kind of border around that front page. So now just taking these paper artsy letter stamps and just some black StazOn ink, double checking that I've got the letters in the right order, and then I'm just going to stamp journal, and I just do it up and down the way. So I've looked out the X because what I'm going to put on here is 5 times 7, so the 5 minutes, that's 7 days. And I thought I had some number stamps, but I couldn't see them, so I've simply taken this permanent marker, which is starting to dry out, but you know, there's enough in it to get the basics down, and just writing in 5 times 7. And later on I do actually add the hashtag to the bottom of the journal. Just going round it now with that Pilot pen, and again just adding a bit more to the border. Now just going to put a few little black spots, black splatters. Don't know why, but that sometimes just helps pages kind of come to life. I should have used a bigger paintbrush, I would have got it done quicker, but again, it was just what I had to hand. Then just putting a few dots on, just a little bit of mark making. Again, it just helps add interest. And taking this white Sharpie pen, just adding some dots to the numbers. And a bit more to the cover. And that's the cover complete. Oh, a bit of white round the border again. And that's it complete. So, on to day 1. And a subtitle for this video would have been Comedy of Errors or whatever, because it was as if every day something went wrong. So on day 1, I think the first thing that happened was I don't think I'd actually pressed the timer button properly. Either that, or when I went to check how long I had left, I knocked it off in some way, because I think I ended up taking more than the kind of 5 minutes. I couldn't quite work out how long it had taken, but you know, I still did the page pretty quickly. So this is where Sometimes when you're working at speed like this, you pick up a paint and you think, why did I use that colour? But you know, it is what it is. This is all about working quickly and trying not to think too much about shape, form, colour, any of that. It's just about getting something down on the page. Now I took these primary elements. I'd had these out for another project and that's why they were sitting there. It's not something I use a lot. They're really nice, but I did notice, I think I used them another occasion in the week, and they do seem to react differently on top of different colours. But you know, it gave quite a nice effect. So just dabbing it off because it was going to take a while to dry it. Then taking this flower stencil, and I think that's that magenta that I'd used on the cover, and just doing a bit of stenciling. I had this piece of Tim Holtz tissue lying to the side that had the big butterfly on it, and I just decided to add that. Again, trying to make sure that the page is fully dry. When I did my Take 5 videos, I didn't include drying time in the 5 minutes. Because if you use a lot of thick, heavy paints, then they can take a while to dry. So just putting my butterfly in place there. Then just looking out a few bits of fabric. It's a kind of linen type thing and a piece of cheesecloth. And I think this is a point at which I start to think, gosh, this 5 minutes is taking quite a while. And at some point I reach for my phone and then wonder what's going on. Because I'm sure it still showed that I had 5 minutes to do, so I just decided to finish the page off. And I was kind of faffing about with that, with time that I didn't really have, but I wanted it on the page, so it was going on. And I think this is just some fabric glue that I used. It decided to be a bit stubborn as well, so I was having to squeeze the bottle really hard. I think I need to clean the cap out a bit. So get that stuck down. Then I want to put a word on it, and I just dig out the same alphabet stamps that I had used for the front cover. Couldn't see my acrylic block, and I didn't want, I knew time was running out anyway, so I just decided to do them unmounted, and I just add the word fly. And that's it, page done. Oh, another bit of splatter. And that's it. Page 1, day 1, done. I add the date, although I think I forgot to add it later on in the week, but never mind. So day 2. And I think today was the day that my heat gun decided to stop working fully. Now, what I was showing you there was everything was just left in place from the day before. The paintbrushes had been left in the water and everything, which I'm trying these days not to do, but if I've had a busy day arting and then I suddenly have to go and do something else, I don't always clean it away. I just don't always have the time to. I should, but I don't always, so just trying to be honest. So I set my 5 minutes and then I'm ready to go. So taking some neon pink paint, and I just roll it through that same flower stencil. It was lying there, so I just used it. giving that a dry, and then what I found with my heat tool was it would start, I'd switch it off, lay it to the side, and then it just wouldn't turn back on for ages. But using a bit more of that, I think it's called primary elements. I suppose during the course of the week what I started to see was where I'd used colours on one page, then the page on the other side I was trying to do something similar. I suppose it's just so that the two pages look kind of not coordinated, but didn't look out of sorts beside each other. So that page got really wet, and I think I realised as the week went on that doing things that required less drying was the better option, especially given that my heat tool wasn't working properly. So I think here with the white paint I was just trying to calm all of that down because it just seemed a bit kind of too bold, if it can be too bold. And just getting out a stamp here. This was just a stamp from Hobbycraft, and I was just dabbing the paint there because I think that's where the heat gun had definitely stopped working. So you see that when I'm stamping, I'm actually stamping into paint that's still a little bit wet, and of course I end up transferring a bit of that onto my ink pad, so trying to wipe that off as well. Again, just using a little bit of that Tim Holtz tissue and just using a glue stick to put that on, and some other papers that I had lying to the side. So just trying to quickly add collage just for interest. And I think this flower was from one of the Tim Holtz collections. I had a bundle of these out for another project I was working on, so I always end up with bits and pieces just lying out. Often I'll put things back in the pack, but there's one that always seems to be lying about like a stray. So trying to dry it there, but wasn't doing it for me, so now just going around that flower with the Stabilo oil again, and then just trying to activate that with my paintbrush. Now I felt that I hadn't done enough, so I then go back in. So again today I think I went slightly over the 5 minutes, probably around about 6 minutes. And again I'm just going to stamp a word on, not mounting it because that would take too much time. And I just stamp this word vertically, and it's grow. And that's day 2 done. So on to day 3. Setting my timer and just starting with this book page. And again just using a glue stick to get that down. I just thought using a big piece like that was quite a good way to get a lot down onto the page very quickly. Again, still some fragments of that Tim Holtz tissue. It's amazing that if you're just using little bits here and there, a little bit can go a long way. That was an old scrap of tea-dyed paper, or coffee-dyed, I'm not sure which. And then I had this art stamp. Now, I'd actually been washing a few of my stamps, cleaning them up. I don't often do that, but sometimes when they stop working properly. And this was one that I had actually cleaned. And this was today's disaster of sorts, though not really a disaster. I think the stamp was still wet, and therefore the ink just didn't take. So I'm pressing down on it really heavily. I lift it, and there's barely anything there. So I go over the stamp again, try and get plenty ink onto it. Meanwhile, time's ticking away, and I press really hard again. You can see the effort going into that. And it's like, oh no. And I knew I couldn't do it a third time because it would just have been everywhere. So I decided then just to take a pen and to try and draw in what should have been there. So, you know, when these things happen, you just got to make the most of it. And I was just using the kind of packaging there to work out what went where. Wasn't concerned about it being exactly the same, but, you know, it was just a way of trying to recover the situation. And again, all the time ticking away. I'd lost a lot of time by stamping it twice and then having to go over it. So just using, I think it's a watercolour, yeah, it's a watercolour here, just to get a bit of colour in the background. If she'd stamped properly, then she would have stood out, but because of that, I felt it needed a bit of colour in the background. And probably just thinking too much about it here rather than just getting on and kind of doing it and not worrying about the outcome. So when the timer went off, I decided to give myself another minute. I thought, why not, you know, stamping failed twice, so I'm just going to do something. So then I thought, ooh, I'm going to find some words. So what came out was expectations identified on the basis of information. And I just linked them together. And at that point, I thought she looked like a telephone operator, you know, with one of those little microphones across her face. Yeah, that's just what I saw. So the words don't mean anything, but they were just the ones that jumped out from the page. Then I just decided to write them out again. Don't know why, just did. And so another page done. Okay, day 4. So, setting my timer just to get started. And I just take some of the watercolours that were again still sitting around. I think again I hadn't actually cleaned up from the day before, becoming a habit. Spread that out, dabbed it off. Again, conscious that my heat gun's working, but not working great. I need to replace it. So after putting down a bit of colour, I decide that I'll do a bit of collage. So you'll see a few of these papers are exactly the same, and that's just because I've got a little tub of papers that I keep kind of scraps in. So again, that's a piece of that Tim Holtz tissue paper. Grabbing a piece here of the book text, and then some of those little fabric pieces again. I do like to tear fabric where possible so that I get the threads. That's a piece of cheesecloth. Just trying to make a little bundle. And again, just stapling that together. Now, I think I must have lost a bit of film there, but I've added words. The controller uses this information to assess the degree of success. So that was just another bit that came from that same page. And so we move on to day 5. Someone had asked on Instagram whether I looked through all my bits and pieces beforehand, but I just wanted to show you here that I have this little tub of things. Usually after I've been working on a project, I'll just put things together in a little tub, or in that instance a little plastic bag, and I keep these together. Every so often I try and sort the little tubs out to try and make some sense of them so that there's kind of like things together, but more often than not they just all end up in a jumble. And when I'm doing kind of 5-minute pages, those are the kind of boxes of scraps that I'll tend to draw from. So here I am about to start today's page, day 5, and yeah, I'm just going to use my jelly plate again to get down a bit of colour to start. So there we go, the 5 minutes, and off we go. So you'll see some colours have seeped through from previous days' pages, and that's fine. I don't mind that at all. It will just all help add to the interest of the page. So again, just doing this to kind of quickly get down some colour on the page. And just using the roller as well to take the excess off there. So going through my little box, I had spied this when I was showing you what was in the box, and this is a sketch that's literally on the back of an envelope. I don't know when I did this, a while ago. Sometimes I'll just sit and kind of doodle and draw little things, and I'd obviously just picked that up one time and put it into my box, so that's there. The other thing it's more little bits of that piece of Tim Holtz paper. As I say, it goes a long way. Small piece from the book page. And then I take some bubble wrap and just use the Stays On ink just to put down a bit of interest there. Tiny bit of the cheesecloth. I think that was actually sticking to the mat, so I just grabbed it off. So these are kind of little, almost thumbnail size things, examples of my work. Sometimes when I take images of my work, I'll then make up a small sort of, I guess a kind of collage sheet, just different pieces that I can use in collage. This is just from one of my words that I typed up. Usually I put them on book page behind, but this obviously hadn't got finished, so that's why it ended up in the scrap box. I'll link that particular video above as well. And that was that page done. I think I definitely kept within time. So day 6, and a similar process. I set my timer. I've got my little box of scraps. There'll be a few paints sitting round about on my desk. This particular piece I remember came from when I was doing one of my positivity deck cards. I think I'd used a piece of paper just to lift the excess paint. These are pieces of a kind of greaseproof paper. It's not quite a deli paper, but greaseproof that I'd been stamping on. Probably just excess stamping. That's a tiny piece that I think was from some old jelly printing. So just grabbing various pieces here to add as collage. And part of me, when I start to spread this paint out, I think it's a turquoise and that magenta again, part of me saying I used way too much, and another part of me saying should have left it, it looked better with the white space. Just trying to add interest with the paintbrush there, checking how much time I've got left. Trying to dry it because the paint at this point is very thick, and as I'm drying I'm trying to dig out other pieces of paper that I can add. I felt it was too bright, and you know, trying not to overthink it, but at the same point sometimes that's difficult to do. So this is another piece of that paper that had been stamped on, probably just some excess stamping, you know, when ink was left on the stamps I was using. So just getting them stuck down, and that kind of knocks some of that colour into the background again. Little piece of the linen, just using my glue stick to put it down rather than the fabric glue because that takes too long. Rummage, rummage, rummage. Not sure what's coming out here. I think at this point everything started to stick to my fingers. Having been using the glue, everything else was then, you know, there was glue stuck to my fingers and then everything was just sticking to them. I found another word, so art. And that was the page for that day. Day 7, the final day. So now on to the back page, the back cover. Again, just going to use similar range of materials, whatever's sitting beside me, whatever paints are around me. Again, that looks like something that I've maybe blotted at some point. I've also used some excess paint on the back at some point. So all those little bits just make it into my scrap box. That little bit's probably been kicking around for a very long time. This isn't just another image, small image of a page that I did a very long time ago. It just seemed to fit in colour wise, so I added that. This time just pulling the strings out from the burlap. Got some Aleene's tacky glue, and I'm just going to stick those in place. So just using the bubble wrap again, this time it's with a sepia ink, and I've just grabbed the end of my glue there, and I'm just actually using the top just to put some circles down. And if I remember rightly, this page, I was trying to remember from earlier today, this page, I think when I looked at the clock I was slightly under the 5 minutes, so again, just that's another scrap that was left over. I think it's got the word dream on it, or maybe it's love, when I was doing my kind of homemade stamps video, and just attaching a couple of those strands from the burlap again to that, just to add some interest there. Just using the Aleene's tacky, there was a loose thread that I just stuck down. It just happened to be there, so it got stuck in place. Again, I'll leave a link to that video above and below in which I made the homemade word stamps. And that was it. Timer done. So, 7 pages in 7 days, and I have a complete little journal. So let's just do a flip through. The cover. Page 1 was fly, page 2 was grow. Page 3 and page 4, and I could see a horse in that top right corner. 5, 6 and 7. Then I decided, rather than leaving it there, I would add some beads just to the excess raffia that was hanging from the sides. Now, I don't show you the whole process for this because it just took me a little bit longer than I thought it would. First off, I was having difficulty finding out where the hole was in the beads, and then at a later point the raffia kept splitting even further, so it was difficult to thread. I should have got a needle out, but I didn't. So you see me here trying to split it further. I decided I'm going to try and do something fancy by almost braiding it in the end. That didn't come off, but yeah, it turned out okay. So that was me trying to push it into the bit where the hole didn't exist. And you see the end was splitting there. That was me also searching for the hole. So I decided that I need to actually get my head down closer to be able to see it. So at that point I switched off the camera, but there it is done. I've not put too much on it, a little rose charm on the end. So the challenge was a lot of fun, really enjoyed it, and yeah, be sure to check out the work of the others participating in the challenge, and you can find that on Instagram and at SouthernGalsDesigns on YouTube. So as always, thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.